What a field day for the heat down there. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and they carry inside. Mostly saying hooray for our side. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. When people speak with their mind, getting so much resistance far behind. We got to stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look, it's going down.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Robust Opposition. I'm your host, Lauren Steiner. Lily Starling is taking the week off, but we have a very great show for you today, jam-packed. We're going to be talking about the Bernie Revolution. That's why I'm wearing my shirt, because Bernies are taking over Democratic parties, and this is what the big portion of our show is going to be about today. Today, Sunday, is day 2 of the ADEM elections. And our first segment is going to be featuring some people who got the short end of the stick just yesterday. So we've got an action-packed show. So with no further ado, I would like to introduce our first guest, my friends, who I know very well from being Bernie delegates to the PNC convention in Philadelphia. Tyler was a delegate. He was not an AD delegate candidate. However, he Dem exited, but he was there to witness what happened in 64 yesterday. And we have Linda Bassett.
Hi, Lauren. Good morning. That's Linda Teach on Facebook. That works.
Facebook, yeah, because she's a teacher. And Tiffanie Smith. So let's start with you since Chris is frozen. Let's talk with Linda and Tiffanie and then Tyler about what happened in AD 64. First of all, Tiffanie, we're very sorry that you lost your election yesterday, but it seems like there's some shenanigans going on. Linda, would you like to be the first to describe what happened yesterday?
Oh, okay, I'm going to talk to you about the special event that I went to. I was actually invited to Mike Gibson's breakfast in the morning. He invited his friends to breakfast, his constituents, and I wanted them, obviously.
Mike Gibson.
Mike Gibson? Who is
yes.
he?
Tell us who he is, because we have a national audience.
He's our assembly member. He's our assembly member.
And he's part of the establishment, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And he had a slate. He had a slate that he was running, and he invited his constituents there, which were mostly all Black African American. There were a few Hispanics there, and myself and my friend Stacy, and hey Tyler, and we were sitting there, and he talked about what he had done for the constituents over the year and what he was planning to do. And then towards the end, he passed the mic to a council member. And that council member proceeded to say that, when you guys are here, you're not just going to eat and go. You should eat and vote, and then you can go. All right? And then he said, but when you go outside, you're going to see some people out there, and they don't look like us, he said. And they don't belong here. They're not even from our area. And they're out there just to cause trouble. And so I just want you to take your paper and I want you to go and vote, and don't talk to them, don't listen to them. And in fact, we've had to call the police on them. They're out there causing trouble. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, well, who could that be? Who's out there causing trouble, and why would they be calling the police? Because I know my friends are there, and they're mild-mannered and well-spoken and really nice. And so that was the end, and they told everyone to go out and vote. My friend that was with me had the balls to go up and say to this council member, hey, when you said that, I felt really bad because, I don't look like anybody in here. And she's like me, she's white. And most of them there, again, were African American or people of color. There were some Hispanics there also. And he apologized to her right there on the spot, which was a good thing. He realized that he'd made a mistake, but it was like being a fly on the wall, sitting there listening to that. And then when I went outside, lo and behold, they had called the police on Lucille, one of our candidates. And I was shocked because he's so mild-mannered. But I wasn't there. I didn't actually see that. I think Tyler saw that.
So now we're going to cut to Tyler, who's going to give us a report from what happened outside before we come back to you, Tiffanie. So take it away, Tyler.
Thanks. So, yeah, as soon as Maria and I arrived,
Maria Estrada, introduce Maria.
Maria Estrada. She's been a fierce advocate for Bernie since the primaries. Fought very, very hard in the Compton area, and she was a candidate for delegate for this assembly district.
Yes, I want to mention that Tyler Morrison was also a big Bernie super volunteer with Compton for Bernie. Okay, so go on, Tyler.
When we arrived, immediately we saw a police presence there, and the only other person who had been there from our group of the Bernie slate, was Lucio. And he was a candidate for the election, and he told us that they were called on him because he was being aggressive. And knowing Lucio and having conversations with him, and especially Maria, who knows him much better, he's a really nice guy. That, like Linda said, very well spoken and mild mannered. So clearly they were exaggerating a lot on that. But the police didn't really seem like they knew why they were there. They did leave when the convener told them that we were all allowed to be there. But the volunteers for the Mike Gibson slate, the staff at the Carson Center were completely on their side, bought out because they simply paid for the facility, so that anything they said goed. And that was pretty sad to see that. We tried sticking up for our rights, and Linda and I had to talk with the security guard on multiple occasions, trying to, stand our ground, being able to talk to the folks that were there to vote.
And didn't they even tell you to stop doing electioneering, which doesn't even apply because it's a party election? Tell us about that.
Right. So the laws and rules regulating that is determined by the California Democratic Party, which says that in these elections we can go and pass out flyers and talk about the issues and the candidates. It's not a public election. It's only for registered Democrats in that district. So normal electioneering laws where you have to be 100 feet from the polling location, they don't apply in this case. But they were trying to enforce those rules only on us, only on the people that were advocating for the Bernie slate.
Interesting.
All right. If you paid for or were invited to that event, then you had free range.
And the breakfast, Lauren.
I'm going to go back to Tiffanie because Tiffanie, you were a delegate for that election. Tell us what it was like inside the election, what it felt like.
Well, mostly we were just outside in the foyer trying to talk to people. But the totally bizarre thing was because of this venue that they'd used, the line going into the voting originated back inside the breakfast room of the breakfast from the council person. And so that's where the line ended. So they were totally being shuffled from the breakfast room and just turning a quarter into the voting room, which actually was one room with a divider between the two. And so the people were coming out, and a lot of people had this just strange energy, but apparently that's what they'd been told inside, that we had the cops called on us and we had no reason to be there and all of these things. And Lucio had told me when they called the police, apparently the wording that they used was that Lucio had been taunting them. And he was just simply saying that, something to the effect that this is supposed to be democracy. I should be allowed to give out my flyers. But the area where it was held, it was such a big money situation, obviously, because we tried to have a little something for people that we knew were coming down to vote for us, little donuts or coffee. And so we investigated if we could do it. And we couldn't do it anywhere on the grounds. They said only if we rented a room. And then we had to pay all kinds of money. We had to use their food and everything else. So we couldn't do anything like that. But pretty much we just had our time of trying to talk to people in that little area where they were coming out of the breakfast room and going into the voting thing. And people coming in from outside were afraid where to even go, because if they tried to get in the back of the line, they'd have to go in the breakfast room. And they were told, no, you're not allowed in here. You can't come in here. What are you doing? And so then they had to cut in the line to get in the line without going through the breakfast room. So it was really absurd.
So how did you feel? Now, I understand that nobody in the Bernie slate won their elections. How did you feel after this happened?
It was pretty shocking. Ours was the district that took the longest to vote, even though we started in the morning. So we had to wait for hours and hours for them to finish the counting. They said it was because they only had 2 sheets. But it was strange because at the end, they called one of our women is winning and one of our men is winning. And then suddenly, like 2 minutes later, no, oops, that was a mistake. Your people, none of them won. It was only the other folks. We felt very disappointed, but under the situation that we were in, I think it was amazing that we pretty much got like 100 votes. I mean, maybe a little over, a little under, a little over with different candidates, obviously. But it's amazing that under that situation that we got as many votes as we did.
What about the buses? Tell her about the
buses. Oh, and did you know that he chartered 2 huge fancy buses and brought most of the people in from senior centers?
Okay. I think Dave may have
there were 2 breakfasts, Lauren. There was one by Albert Robles, who's the mayor of Carson City.
Oh my God.
He was having a breakfast at the Doubletree Hilton across the way. And so there were 2 buses, and I don't know, I think maybe he brought a bus and Mike Gibson's group brought a bus. So yeah. We have 2 breakfasts, 2 buses, and just us. And we were being told, we can't be there. You know, you have to leave. You can't hand out your pamphlets. And we're going to call the police. And in fact, they actually did call the police, which was really shocking.
Okay, before we go to Chris, I want to just ask you, Tiffanie, does this discourage you from getting involved in the Democratic Party? What's your next step?
Well, yeah, I'm still processing emotionally, really. There's a variety of emotions. Yeah, there's definitely discouragement, but then there's also the same encouragement that we have. I don't know, is it anger? Is it like, I would be cool with it if it was fair and square and they won, but it really kind of brings out the beast in a person. We feel like, well, we were really cheated and that was really wrong. And you feel like you just want to go head to head with that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's good. That's the kind of energy we need. I just want to add a little bit of an addendum because I'm familiar with Carson. Of course, you guys live down there, but I went down there to testify in favor of their fracking ban. And this was a couple of years ago. Maria Elena Durazo from the LA County Federation of Labor bussed in 500 Teamsters and IEBW workers, electrical workers, to testify against the fracking ban, to testify against it, yes. And they were all wearing shirts that said jobs for Carson, even though none of the jobs would go to Carson residents, even though none of the jobs were even unionized. And that's apparently what politics looks like down there. And it's kind of disgusting. And it's one of the reasons why Bernie-crats want to take over the party. So I'm going to let you guys go now. We're going to be going to some people who did win their elections later in the show, so we hope you watch, and we'll catch you later and keep fighting. I know, Linda, you're in that party, so I know you're going to keep fighting.
That's for sure.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tyler.
Lauren.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Bye,
Okay,
Lauren.
so you can click off now, and we're going to go to Chris. Chris Barroso, I think I may have said at the beginning of the show, was a national Bernie delegate. We met in San Diego. And then, we met in San Diego in the summer meeting. And then we met again in Philadelphia. And then he came all the way up for the protest that Nicole Lutkemuller and I did in Lake Tahoe as a TPP protest. Because as you guys probably know who are watching the show, the Bernie delegates did a TPP protest on the floor of the Democratic National Convention. So Chris came up to that. That was the 3rd time I met him. And then, I'm sure we've met again. But in any case, Chris was running for Assembly District Delegate in AD 57, which is in San Diego.
76.
Oh, I'm sorry, 76. Oops, okay. And so he's going to describe what happened with those elections yesterday. You were actually winning, and like, take it from there.
Yeah. So normally in the elections, of course, there's a 2-hour election period, and it extended. The convener extended it on. It was really crowded. We had about 350, 400 votes, ballots cast. And normally in the Assembly District, a ballot counting procedure, it's required to be a public procedure for verification, obviously, and for oversight. Unfortunately, the convener, Richard Duquette, decided otherwise. The ballot counting did happen in public after the election voting was over. And the executive board ballot counting happened first. They actually did tally those results for the executive board. I was also running for executive board. I did really well, 206 votes for me, 46 for the next runner-up. So we were expecting to do well in the remainder in the Assembly District parts. So that ballot counting started immediately thereafter, but it was quite a slow procedure. Lasted many hours, actually. But about a couple of hours into the procedure, the convener brought us together, and he said, look, the procedure that I'm going to be doing is to not release the results of the ballot counting until perhaps Monday. And this is, we were aghast, we were astounded, we discussed it with him. This is totally contrary to the bylaws and the regulations. What's the point in counting the ballots in public as we were doing? We had a number of observers looking over the ballot counting and kind of watching everything, and there was no problem. Everything was going well, and the 3 ballot counters were doing an excellent job. They had no problem. But then, but like I said, so we talked back and we started making calls all over the state to the state director, and eventually we got the state director to talk to the convener. According to the convener, he actually said that she agreed with him, that she said he could do what he wanted, which doesn't make any sense. So we've got to follow up on that. We are following up on that. But anyway, they completed the ballot counting. They got all done. We have a videotape testimony from one of the ballot counters on that. But then the convener said, do not count up the tallies. Do not actually count up your hash marks, which would have been a 5-minute simple process to give us the unofficial counts. What's always given out, and we showed them a picture of other assembly districts posting their results. It's how things are done, and what it does is it allows a first step verification. It puts meaning to the actual public part of the ballot count. What he said instead he's going to do is take the ballots home and then take them into the office, his own personal office today. He's an attorney, and he's going to review everything, make sure everything is correct, do the math on the tally counts himself, and then on Monday he will issue an unofficial report. We said this is what part of a public ballot count is that relating to? Clearly there's no oversight in this process. There's no public oversight. But he was insistent. So at the end of the ballot counting, he actually insisted, he insisted that all of the ballot counters sign off on the procedure, that they sign their signature saying that the tallies were done and they were correct. One of them refused to do it, and the convener got ballistic and breathed down his neck 3 times and insisted on him signing it, but he because the convener would not allow them to actually count the tally, complete the tallies, just the counting of the hashes. And so he was actually, he breathed down his neck angrily 3 times to get him to sign. He refused, so the convener dismissed him, and the regional director signed in his place.
Wow.
And then the video shows the regional director, and the regional director expected, he called the police, and he expected, we were angry, we were upset, but we were not threatening in any way. Certainly, of course, we're a nonviolent group, of course. But he called the police. There were 2 police officers that escorted him and the ballots out to, and the other members out to his car, and that was kind of the end of it.
Okay, do we have the video, Dave? Okay, play that video.
The director told us to take these home, and then we'll tally them up and complete it. It's over 9 o'clock, and we'll have these out to everybody Monday. That's within 3 days, actually 2 days early. So
Did you complete the count?
Of the tallies to Chris Barroso.
Did they complete the count? Did you complete the count?
I'm out this way.
Did you complete the count? Did you complete the count? Did you complete counting? Complete the count.
We have signed.
Let's just go this way. We don't need to count.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
They don't need to count. You sign off without counting.
I'm right behind you.
Okay.
I'm upstairs. Oh, you're upstairs.
Where's your car at?
I'm downstairs. She's downstairs.
Just go ahead and go.
I'm just gonna go.
They will not count the votes. They are taking them to a private area.
Where's the easiest way?
For me to get to my car is this way.
Okay, let's go.
They're done stealing the votes.
So who's going to ensure there is no tampering? We're going this way. Okay. This is going to be back.
Oh, we're gonna go this way.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay. Thanks.
Good night. Good night.
Everybody.
Oh, this is the easiest way. Okay. I'll take your bag.
Oh, they already counted, but they're refusing to show. And he has moved to the system, and he didn't sign.
Chris, is there more of this we should show?
Not too much. Yeah, there's another video there on the Facebook link. You can search my name, Chris Barroso, Barroso, for the other video. The only thing I wanted to mention is it's strange that this convener, Richard Duquette, is causing this trouble for no apparent reason. He is actually running for election to the vice chair of the San Diego County Democratic Party. His election is on Tuesday, and we're actually planning a rally to talk about this incident at the election on Tuesday in Oceanside Community Library, a public library in Oceanside, and at 7 p.m.
Well, that's very good. We're going to put the link up to that on our page here. And we know that they have not counted the ballots yet, or if they have counted the ballots, they're not releasing the results. So I just want to wish you good luck. Since it looks like you were so far ahead, I hope they don't try to steal it from you. But if they do, I won't be surprised, because we understand that there's a lot of corruption. I co-founded Ballots for Bernie. We were counting all the ballots after the California primary, or I should say we were monitoring the counting of the ballots. And we know that there was a very bad situation down there in San Diego with Michael Vu, who is your registrar of voters. And he had come from Ohio, actually, in 2004. And we all know what happened in Ohio. So San Diego is a mess, and we appreciate your continued vigilance. And I hope to have you back on the show soon. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Song and to carry inside. Mostly say hooray for our side.